Just here. So yeah, I want to thank Colin a lot for joining us today. He is a mindfulness teacher, certified coach, and breathwork facilitator, and the founder of Stillness Labs, a corporate mindfulness training company helping teams work better together through emotional development training. One thing that I find really fascinating is he spent 7 years training as a Buddhist monk before embarking on his journey of coaching and leading workshops globally. And today he's presenting on mindfulness for working with anxiety and uncertainty. So I present to you Colin Pal.
Thanks, Kent. Hello, everyone. I am very grateful to be here. So yeah, I'd love for all of us to make this workshop yours. Right, so feel free to engage, feel free to jump in if you have any questions, if you have, if there's anything I'm bringing up that lands for you or doesn't land for you, feel free to engage. Feel free, you can either drop that into the chat, you can unmute yourself and hop in and join the conversation as well. And that goes for you as well, Ken. All right, I love to kind of keep this workshop more casual, and I see this more as a discussion as we explore together the topic of mindfulness and anxiety and how that can play together really well. And anytime I'm speaking too fast, let me know. I tend to do that sometimes because I end up speaking really, really fast, especially when I get really nerdy around the science of this. So do bear with me and let me know if I need to slow down. I'm going to pull up my slides here. Kent, you have to, I think I am to say I can't share my screen. You might have to unlock that permission for me. While he's doing that, I'll quickly introduce myself. So I'm the founder of Stillness Labs, and what we do, I started Stillness Labs about 2 years ago. And what we do is we bring trainings like this into workspaces. And our mission is really to make mindfulness and resilience more accessible and practical. All right, so what we do is we take the science behind what concepts like mindfulness, meditation, breath work, resilience, we break that down into actionable and practical tools so that teams can start to implement them in their everyday life on a personal level, but also as a team as well. Okay, perfect. That should allow me to, there you go. And I believe you should be able to see my screen now. Perfect. I see some head nods, so that's good. Okay. And so you can find more about us on our website at Stillness Labs. And as for myself, as Kent mentioned, I'm a meditation teacher, life coach, breathwork facilitator. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. Began when I was 13, and I spent 7 years training as a Buddhist monk. After the 7 years, I decided I wanted to take everything I've learned in the monastery. I felt there was so much value that I've learned and so much experience that I can take and bring out into the world. And I was really fascinated by the science behind it, which I didn't get the opportunity to learn in the monastery. So I left and decided to explore the neuroscience, the nervous system science behind mindfulness, meditation, and breath work, and to bring those into spaces I feel needed it the most, right? And for me, that was here in workplace environments and in corporate spaces. And so, my mission has always been to change the future of work from the inside out, helping people become more familiar with their own emotional landscape. And so today I wanted to explore the topic of mindfulness and anxiety, because I believe now it's more important than ever to have the set of tools that allows us to navigate through these times of uncertainty, these times of change and transition, right? And anxiety itself, I believe, is a social contagion. It's the most contagious emotion out there, right? All it takes is people around you to have a certain level of anxiety for you to also experience that, even if without reason. And so I'd love to ground us first. So let's start with a quick mindful practice here. With a lot of these workshops that I run, I want it to be a lot more interactive so that we're not just sitting there and learning from me, but we're also practicing and taking things away from it. And so I want to guide us through a quick introductory fundamental mindfulness practice called a pause and check. And pausing is important because without pausing, you can't practice any mindfulness. This is the first step to any type of mindfulness practice. And the reason being is our natural tendency is to be an autopilot. We run from one task to the next, one call to the next, one email to the next, one client to the next. All right. And we spend our entire day in complete autopilot. We come home, we're exhausted. We know we've done something, but we look back, we're like, what did I even do today? All right. How many of you have experienced that? All right. It's because we spend most of our day in complete autopilot. And so mindfulness is this practice of disrupting that autopilot and coming back to the present moment. All right. And so I invite you to pause, letting go of whatever you need to do right now. All right. And I invite you to look around the room. Just notice the space around you, getting familiar with the space around you. We spend so much time in this space, but we take for granted the things that are here. Notice and just be in reverence of maybe something that you have not noticed in a while, a picture frame, a home decor, something that has sentimental value to you, that has always been there and is always there, but you just haven't really noticed. Just gently be aware of that. Now I invite you to take that attention and bring it back, the same quality of reverence, bringing it back to your body now and checking in with your body, noticing your posture. How are you sitting? Are you upright? Or are you hunched over? Are you closed off? Can you open yourself up? Can you align your back a little bit, straighten yourself a little more? Are you holding any tension in your neck, your jaw, your shoulders? Can you drop that, loosen it, shake it out if you need to? Allowing yourself to come back to a postural ease. And now I invite you to take that attention and turn inwards a little more deeper and check in with yourself. How are you feeling right now in this moment? All right. And to guide you through this exercise of becoming more familiar with your emotional landscape, I invite you to rate how you're feeling right now in this moment on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being I'm extremely stressed, burnt out, extremely anxious. 10 being I'm feeling relaxed, centered, grounded, calm. So where on that spectrum are you without judging yourself for where you are, just getting real, getting raw with where am I with how I'm feeling right now on that spectrum of 1 to 10. And then let's get a little more clear with that. Well, building what we call emotional literacy is, can you describe what you're feeling right now with a word, a phrase, perhaps an emoji, maybe a movie title or a book title, whatever way you can? How would you describe what you're feeling right now in this moment beyond, the usual, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bad, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling angry? Those are the most 4 common emotions that we typically respond to. All right. Can we get a little more granular and really explore what is it that I'm feeling right now? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling a little stressed? Am I feeling a little fluttered? And I want you to, drop that into the chat. Drop that into the chat on a scale of 1 to 10. Where on that scale are you feeling? And what's the word? What's the phrase? What's a way you can describe that? Just drop that in the chat real quickly. Ken's feeling a little warm, and 6.5 is what's coming up for him. I'm feeling about an 8 right now. And I think the word that best describes how I'm feeling is excited. Excited to be here, excited to get to share this with all of you. And so I'll give you a few minutes there to just hop into the chat and drop in. And again, this isn't about judging ourselves for what we're feeling. This isn't about comparing either. Oh, I have a higher number, right? I have a higher number than Kent, or I'm feeling better than Kent. This is letting go of the judgment, letting go of the stories or any add-on that we have. And this is simply just getting real with what we're experiencing right now, quantifying it between 1 and 10, and qualifying it and describing it with a word. Rena says exhausted and satisfied and overwhelmed. Yeah, and it's okay to have to be experiencing multiple different emotions at the same time. Right? Feeling a 4, okay. All right, is 10 the best? Yeah, I guess you can say 10 is the best. 10 is feeling great. And so feel free to drop that in there. And I'll explain why, right? All right, Lillian's feeling a 3, hanging on. Okay, yeah, all right. Thank you for the honesty. And I'm going to explain why this practice of building emotional literacy is important in a second here. So today we're talking about mindfulness, and I want to open the discussion up a little bit. And I want to throw this question back at you. What do you think mindfulness is? And you can feel free to unmute yourself and share that, or you can drop that into the chat. What does mindfulness mean to you? Ken says meditation. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's too obvious to link, but
What? It's whatever way that you would see mindfulness. And there's no right, there's no wrong. Everyone has a different definition, I guess, and experience with mindfulness. Right? We have focusing on what's going on around and inside you. I love that, Rena. All right, finding some serenity within. I love that, Shirley. That is beautiful. Yes, it's finding that peace, that inner peace, the serenity, the stillness within us. Mm-hmm. All right. So mindfulness, again, it's a different experience for everyone, right? Lillian says it's a bit of creating a little perspective on feeling and thought. Yes, yeah, the act of creating a little perspective. I love that, right? It's being able to be more perspective, what it is you're feeling, what it is you're thinking. So in the most simplest way to explain it, mindfulness is a level of awareness that you're bringing to what's present right here, right? And again, you can change that definition for what fits and what resonates for you, because it's more of an experience than an actual action, right? And so the reason behind why mindfulness is important and why I am really passionate about teaching this is because awareness, having that level of awareness of what's present here, gives you choice. And choice is the most powerful and empowering thing you can give yourself. As I mentioned, we spend most of our day, most of our time in autopilot. A lot of our choices is being dictated by our patterns, our behaviors, right? We rarely actually stop and ask ourselves, what choice do I actually want to make right now? And the beautiful thing is the choices that you make leads you to the change that you want, right? If you want to be more physically healthy, if you want to be more emotionally healthy, if you want to be more mentally healthy, you have to make the choices for that, all right? And you can only make choices if you have a level of awareness of what's going on for me right now, where do I want to go to, and what's getting in the way of that. And this applies for anything: your physical health, mental health, emotional health, financial health, relational health, all of it. All right. So that's the reason why, and that's my definition of why mindfulness is important. So let's talk about the other part here of the workshop is anxiety. What is anxiety? What is anxiety to you? If you can describe it or define it, what is anxiety? Low level fear. I like that. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Fear is definitely a huge component for it. The opposite of mindfulness, constantly focusing on what was and what's to come. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Our mind gets fixated on both the past or the future, right? We have reflections from the past or we have projections of the future that we get so fixated on that it robs us from being present to what's right here in this moment. Beautiful. I love that. So to me, after digging and working with a lot of people with anxiety, and just to be clear here, I'm talking about everyday anxiety and not debilitating anxiety. All right, there's different, anxiety is a wide spectrum, right? And you can be experiencing it on an everyday level. You can be experiencing it because we're in a global pandemic right now, or you can be experiencing it because of PTSD, other mental health conditions that all combine to make you feel some sort of level of anxiety. The anxiety that I'm talking about today is more around the everyday anxiety that you feel because of the fear that your nervous system and your brain is experiencing, right? And this could be part of the global pandemic that we're experiencing as well, right? Lillian says a wash of cortisol and mental fog. Yeah, absolutely, right? Our levels of cortisol rises, right? We experience a lot more stress in the body, right? We experience that mental fog. It's been a very physical stress. I've been going off of anxiety drugs during this. Thank you for sharing that. It definitely is both a physical and physiological experience as well as a mental experience. So anxiety is two things, okay? It's uncertainty and fear. All right, this is what our body and our mind, our brain and our nervous system is experiencing for the physiological experience of anxiety to happen, right? There's a level of uncertainty and then there's a fear response that happens. All right, we're going to break these two and we're going to dive into each of these because in order to work with anxiety, right, just like any math equation, you just got to cancel it out, right? And so if you want to cancel out uncertainty, you need to create a level of certainty for your mind. To cancel out the fear, right, you got to create a level of safety. So safety and certainty is what the brain and the nervous system needs to cancel out the experience of anxiety. And we're going to talk about how we can do that through mindfulness, because mindfulness creates both. Mindfulness brings us back to the present moment so that we can pay attention to what's actually certain, right? And we can start to make the choices that allows us to feel safe on the nervous system level. And those two combined creates the formula for healing anxiety. Right? And so let's give an example of this. Right now, with the global pandemic that's happening, there's a heightened level of a level of anxiety. And the reason is because there's a lot of fear that's going on. All right, and fear is contagious as well. Right, so even if we don't experience fear, but the people around us experience fear, we pick up on that too. Right, our nervous system picks on that. Right, our brain picks up on that because of mirror neurons. Right, when our brain sees someone else freaking out, right, and seeing someone else being anxious, our brain and our nervous system's like, well, if they are panicking, that probably means there's some sort of danger. I should probably panic too. I don't know why, but I'm going to panic anyway. Right, that's what's going on for us. And the uncertainty, because and I'm going to dive behind what happens in the brain here when we're dealing with uncertainty, but uncertainty because, well, that's what's going on in the world right now, right? With the pandemic, we don't know how long it's going to last. We don't know when things are going to go back to normal, right? There's so much uncertainty and the brain lacks the information it needs to make the decisions, right? We lack the information we need to make financial decisions, career decisions, any decisions that we want to make. If we're business owners, right, the decisions we need to make to move our business forward. We don't have the information we need right now to be able to be certain with those decisions. And so the brain goes into this emotional hijacking. So let's dive a little bit deeper so that you understand. And I like sharing the science because once we understand the science, the practical tools start to make sense, right? So we'll dive into the science and then I'll share the practical tools. So let's look at uncertainty. So the brain, the most simplest way to describe it is there's three kind of core networks in the brain, right? There's the thinking part of the brain, which is the neocortex, the outer layer of the brain, the cortical part of the brain. And then there's the other two, the subcortical parts, which is the limbic system, and that's the emotional brain, and the reptilian brain is the survival brain, okay? So when we are experiencing anxiety, it's our limbic system, the green one and the red one, right, that is getting emotionally hijacked, right? The red one picks up on dangers, right? There's something called neuroception where it's constantly monitoring our environment, looking for threats. When it picks up on threats, right, it activates the emotional brain in order to make decisions to deal with those threats. So when we're experiencing anxiety, these two parts of our brain are getting extremely activated. And here's the thing it's kind of like if you imagine a seesaw, right? Our thinking brain and our emotional brain is like a seesaw. They're mutually exclusive. So when one gets activated, the other one gets dampened. So when we're in this experience of anxiety, our emotional brain gets activated, our thinking brain gets deactivated, right? We might experience this when we're experiencing anxiety. We experience the mental fog, right? We have less of that higher cognitive functioning. We're less focused, we're less creative, right? We struggle with problem solving, right? And that's because our emotional brain is activated. Now, if we're to flip the seesaw, if we start to activate the thinking brain, the emotional brain gets dampened. All right. And so if one of the ways that we activate the thinking brain is by using our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that mindfulness leverages. All right. And so an example of this, right, is when we bring our attention to what's present right now, It requires cognitive functioning to do that, right? It requires cognitive functioning to, okay, I'm going to look around the room. I'm going to notice what's present. I'm going to notice, oh, that beautiful lamp that I have, right? We're using our cognitive functioning brain. We're not being lost in making predictions of the future. We're not being lost in the past. We're present right now. When we activate that cognitive functioning part, the emotional brain starts to get dampened. Does that make sense? Is that landing? And so this is why mindfulness helps, is because with mindfulness, we can start to activate that prefrontal, that thinking part of our brain. All right. Now, another reason why anxiety creates that mental fog as well is that the thinking brain requires information to make decisions. When the thinking brain lacks information, aka uncertainty, right, it starts to go in what if loops, because it's the rational part of the brain. It requires information to be rational. Without information, so with anxiety, the thinking brain's like, I don't know what to do. I want to make financial decisions right now, but I can't. I want to make work-related decisions right now, but I can't. All right? Or I want to make relationship decisions right now, but I can't. And so it goes into what ifs. Well, what if I did this? What if I did that? What if I did this? What will happen? Right? And that's where anxiety comes from. And so what we need to do is we need to use the front part of our brain, use the thinking brain, bring it back to what's certain. Right? And what's certain is what's present. Anything that's present right now is always certain. Right? If I asked you to pick an object in the room right now that's beautiful, that has meaning for you, that is certain. Right? That object has meaning for you. If I asked you to think of someone that you're grateful for, that you love, and think about them and feel the gratefulness, that is certain. There's no uncertainty around that. So when you bring the mind back to what's certain, it lowers the parts that are struggling with uncertainty. Okay, so that's what's happening on the brain level and what mindfulness, how mindfulness can help on the brain level. Let's go over to the nervous system level and let's deal with the second part of the equation, which was fear. Okay, so that's uncertainty. Fear, we need to look at our nervous system. Right, and so if you're familiar with this, then this is a recap for you, I guess. If you're not, do not worry about all the scientific terms. I think it's just understanding how these parts of our body works when we're experiencing anxiety. So our nervous system, the easiest way to understand this is it's broken down into two branches, and you can think of it as a vehicle. There's the acceleration, there's the gas, and then there's the brakes. Right, so your sympathetic on the right-hand side, right, is like the gas of the vehicle. You step on the gas, the vehicle moves forward. Your body moves forward to deal with fight or flight, to handle stress, to handle anxiety. On the other end, which is your parasympathetic, right, this is like the brakes, right? Your body's stepping on the brakes to bring your body, to slow your body back down into rest and digest, into safety, into connection, right? Or sometimes it hits the e-brakes when it can't handle the stress anymore and it goes into freeze, right? So that's the best way you can understand that. And there's an ebb and flow of the sympathetic and parasympathetic that's required for our nervous system and our body to operate, right? To function. And our nervous system is always designed for survival. So it's always going to do what it needs to do to protect us. Okay. Remember that. That is key, right? It's always going to choose survival over anything else because that's what it's designed to do. So let's look at this. What happens when we experience anxiety? Some sort of stress, emotional trigger happens, and our nervous system goes into this peak arousal. Right? When it goes into this peak arousal, we deal with the stress. We, fight, flight, or in some cases, we freeze in order to deal with it. And then once we come back into safety, we come back down to the resting baseline. This is how a healthy, regulated nervous system works. For most of us, especially during this time, it does not operate like this. What happens is we go into this peak arousal and we keep ourselves stuck in the peak arousal. This is where chronic stress, chronic anxiety happens, right? We experience a level of anxiety, and instead of doing what we need to do to bring our nervous system back to safety, we either struggle with it, we fight with it, we keep the loop going, or we sedate ourselves so we don't have to feel it and experience it. Right? We find ways to distract ourselves. Oh, I'm feeling anxious right now. Maybe I should just find something to eat. Maybe I should just go watch something. Maybe I should just go do something to distract myself so I don't have to feel the anxiety. Because we have a natural aversion to pain. We don't want to feel pain and discomfort, right? But the thing is, our nervous system needs to feel it, and then it needs to feel safe for us to come back down to the baseline. I always say it's not about feeling better. Mindfulness is not about feeling better. Mindfulness is about getting better at feeling. You want to get better at feeling because the nervous system has a natural mechanism for coming back down on its own when it feels safe. So that's all we need, is we just need our nervous system to feel safe. Then it'll come back down on its own. It'll bring the anxiety back down on its own. We don't have to do anything to make that happen. All we need to do is create safety for the nervous system. Now I want to talk about what happens when we don't create safety and we stay stuck. We stay stuck in the chronic stress. We stay stuck in the chronic anxiety, right? One thing is fine, but when there's multiple stressors, multiple things that are causing anxiety for us, and it starts to build up, toxic stress builds up in the body, builds up in our tissues, builds up, in our organs, everywhere. And then this is where physical and mental health conditions start to arise, because our nervous system is not just responsible for the stress response. It's also responsible for keeping our body alive, right? All the automatic body functions like breathing, circulatory system, digestive system, right? Our hormones, right? Our nervous system is responsible for all of that. And the thing is, if it's diverting all of its attention and energy to dealing with the anxiety loops, the what ifs, who's taking care of your liver? Who's taking care of your kidney then? Who's taking care of your digestive system? Because it can't do both effectively, right? It can try, but it can't. And then so if you're stuck in too much chronic stress and anxiety without bringing your nervous system back down, the stress builds up, and this is where physical and mental health conditions start to arise. So resilience then, right? Resilience is what we're trying to create. It's about turning your nervous system into your ally so that it works for you and not against you. Because your nervous system works on its own. It's a survival mechanism. It's just doing what it knows how to do to protect us. So the key is, how do we allow our nervous system to work for us and not against us? Okay. And so this is where I want to share different mindfulness tools that we can use to counter that that equation, right? To create more certainty, but also to create safety for our body, for our nervous system. And so in order to understand how that works, I want to simply outline this. It's called the autonomic nervous system ladder, and this is how our nervous system works, right? This is according to the polyvagal theory, if you want to dive more deeper into this. And it basically outlines that our nervous system has three hierarchies. At the very bottom of the ladder is our freeze and shutdown, right? This is when our nervous system can no longer fight or flight anymore. It drops into a freeze or shutdown to protect ourselves. Animals do this, humans do this as well, right? An example with animals is a tiger chases a deer. If it catches the deer, right, sometimes the deer plays dead. It plays dead and it shuts its functions off and everything, hoping that if it plays dead, the lion or the tiger won't eat it, right? Or if the lion or tiger does eat it, right, in freeze or shutdown, it turns off all its pain receptors. So it reduces the amount of pain it'll experience when it's getting eaten. All right, and a little gruesome for a Saturday morning, but just bear with me with the analogy here. Humans do this as well when we go through massive changes in our life, when we experience high levels of emotional pain. All right, in order for our mind body to experience less pain, we go into shutdown, right? When we experience a really bad breakup, when we go through really huge transition in life, right? It's so painful that we go into this shutdown and then we spend days in bed and we're like, why? I just don't want to do anything. It's because our nervous system's in shutdown and it's just trying to protect us, right? Reducing the amount of pain there. We experience this in when we're also experiencing high levels of stress or on the brink of burnout as well. This is what burnout is, right? When we're experiencing too much workplace stress, our nervous system goes into shutdown in order to protect us, right? And you might experience this as, you're eating all the right things, you're drinking enough water, you're exercising, right? You're doing everything Kent tells you to do, right? You're, you're sleeping right. But for some reason, you wake up in the morning, you're just like, I just can't human right now. How many of you experienced that? Right? And that's because your nervous system is in shutdown. And when it's in a shutdown, doesn't matter what you're trying to do, it's going to feel fatigued. right? And so that's the bottom of the ladder. Once we get into the middle of the ladder, that's the fight or flight. That's where we spend most of our time in, right? To deal with the stressors and the anxiety that we experience on a day-to-day level. And then the highest part of the ladder is where we want to be, right? And this is the ventral vagal part. And in order to get into this state of where we get to rest, digest, where we feel connected with those around us and with ourselves, what's required for that is safety. So safety is key here. And that's the biggest takeaway I want all of you to take away from this, right? Is what's required for anxiety is your nervous system needs to feel safe. And so one of the best ways for that to happen is mindfulness and somatic practices, which leads to, I want to share a few different tools now, right? And reminder that it's not about feeling better. It's about getting better at feeling. The better we get at feeling, the better we are. And this is why at the beginning, I introduced that practice of getting more familiar with where am I feeling on the scale of 1 to 10? What is it that I'm feeling? And can I just be with that feeling right now without trying to change it, without trying to judge it? Just be with that. And then can I just create safety for my nervous system and just allow that feeling to process itself? Right? Without trying to change it, because the more we try to change it, the more we're going to struggle with it. And when we feel like we need to change something, we validate the nervous system by saying, yeah, I don't like this feeling. Danger, danger, danger. All right. So the more you struggle with anxiety, the more you validate the nervous system and be like, nervous system, keep doing what you're doing. You're right. This anxiety is danger. So instead, what you want to do is come from a place of gentleness and be like, oh, I am experiencing anxiety. Yes, I don't like it. Can I be with this? And what can I do so that my nervous system feels more safe? And just allow the nervous system to do what it does best, is to bring it back down. Is that landing so far before I continue? Is that making sense?
Yeah, I love that, Colin. Makes a ton of sense.
Awesome. Yeah, if there's any questions, hopefully I didn't go through that too quickly. If there's any questions, feel free to just jump in, drop that into the chat as well. All right. Otherwise, I can move forward. I can share a couple different mindfulness tools that we can use, somatic tools as well, that we can use to create safety for us. All right. So the first one, I actually invite everyone to stand up for this. Okay. So wherever you are, if you can, to stand up. All right. And this is a practice called centering. All right. I'm going to sit down so you can see me. But yep. So standing up. What centering is about is bringing your nervous system back to center, bringing it back to baseline, right? And the way we do that is we have direct access to our nervous system through 1, our body, and 2, our breath, okay? And so we're gonna use those 2. We're gonna leverage those 2 to bring our nervous system back to safety. So we always begin with pausing and check. So pausing what you're doing, disrupt the pattern of autopilot, bring yourself back to what's present in this moment. Checking in with yourself, noticing how you're feeling. And then the second part here is I want you to align your body, right? So make sure you're standing a little more upright, checking in, relax your neck, relax your jaw. If you're holding any tension there, if you're holding any tension in your shoulders, make sure your neck is aligned with your shoulders. So ears over your shoulders, shoulders over your hips, hips over your feet planted down the ground. You're feeling quite aligned. And you're relaxing, releasing any tension you might be holding in any of your muscles. This is what we call postural ease, and this is what creates safety. And the reason for this is your physiology will always mimic your nervous system. When you're feeling upset, depressed, or down, how is your posture? You're going to be closed off, you're going to be hunched over, right? You're going to be looking down to the ground, not making eye contact with people. When you're feeling stressed or anxious, how's your body posture? You hold tension, especially around your neck, your shoulders, right? Your muscles are tense, also quite closed off. Now, how are you when you are feeling grounded, relaxed, confident, happy, all the positive ones? Your body's open, your body's aligned, your body's open, your body's relaxed, right? So your physiology mimics your nervous system, vice versa. Your nervous system will also mimic your physiology. Change your physiology, change your posture, and your nervous system will be like, oh, so Colin's not anxious right now? Oh, so Colin's actually safe right now? Okay, I guess I can dial things back down then. right? So when you change your physiology, you're sending a signal to your nervous system, letting it know somatically that I am safe right now. That's the key. That's the purpose of this, right? It's telling your nervous system, I am safe. If you're hunched over and you're closed, you're telling your nervous system otherwise. You're telling it, I'm sad right now. I'm upset right now. I need protection. I need comfort. So instead, open up, right? Tell your nervous system that you are safe. I am safe right now. You can come back to baseline. And then the second part is you want to be breathing into your belly, right? So this helps if you put one hand on your belly. If you've never done any belly breathing before, right? Putting one hand on your belly and just noticing your belly expand, right? And close as you're breathing. So as you're breathing in, it's expanding out. You're closing down, collapsing as you're breathing out. Expanding as you're breathing in, collapsing as you're breathing out. All right, just notice and breathe. And it can feel uncomfortable if you're new to this. Right, and just slowly ease your way into it, breathing deeper into your belly. Now, the reason we want to breathe into our belly is this is the most functional way to breathe that will activate what is called the vagal tone. Right, this will activate the parasympathetic, the brakes on your system. Right, when you're breathing deeper into your belly, activating your entire diaphragm, massaging your gut and everything. Right, you're activating the full extent, and you're increasing your vagal tone, telling your nervous system, I am safe and it's okay to come back to baseline. Because our breathing also mimics our nervous system. When you're anxious, stressed, or having a panic attack, how are you breathing? Yeah, that's right. Up in your chest. You're breathing up in your chest. You're breathing very rapid, right? Or you're holding your breath. How many of you caught yourself doing that? You're just working at your computer or whatever, and then you're just like, oh, how long have I been holding my breath for? When was the last time I even breathed? Right, and that's our breathing reflects our nervous system as well. Now, if you notice, and you'll notice this if you have babies, or if you observe babies, or if you have pets, if you observe pets as well, when they're relaxed, how are they breathing? Always in their belly, right? Always they're breathing deep down to their belly. So we came into this world knowing how to breathe. But as we aged, as we grew older, as we picked up more bills, as we picked up more responsibilities, our breathing slowly went up. Right? And so now we need to retrain ourselves to breathe deeper into the belly. And so recapping, centering, step 1, pause, check in with yourself. Step 2, align, relax your body, create postural ease. Right? Plant your feet down to the ground. Feel grounded. When you're a grounded tree, doesn't matter how stormy it gets, the tree doesn't fly away. When you're a frail tree, the wind blows, you're like flying all over the place. Right? So ground yourself. Your physiology, your posture is grounded, and then breathe into your belly. That's simple. Try that out, and I guarantee you're going to start to notice your nervous system change right away. So go ahead and have a seat again. And this is called centering, and I encourage you to practice the centering as many times as possible. Anytime throughout the day you're feeling a little off-centered, right? Just drop what you're doing, start and change it right away. Change your posture, come back and breathe into your belly, and that's it. And remember, it's all about my nervous system needs to feel safe. That's what matters right now. Okay. So that's on the body level. I want to explore one on the mind level. What happens when your mind is going through these anxious loops, right? And this is an exercise called anchoring, and allows us to use the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of our brain that I mentioned. Right? How this works is, again, pause what you're doing, and then I invite you to look around the room and notice and name 3 things you see. Perhaps noticing a picture frame, a home decor, a lamp, beautiful pillow you have, whatever has meaning for you. Just noticing. The name 3 things you see, doesn't matter what it is, and then name 3 things you hear now. So it could be the sound of traffic, could be any background noise that you might hear in your home, could be the sound of my voice, could be the sound of your voice in your own head, your own thoughts. And then notice 3 things you feel, right? So actually feel on a visceral level, right? So that could be your back against the backrest of your chair. Could be your feet against the ground. If you want, you can pick up an object and feel it as well. So picking up my cup, feeling the smoothness, the coolness of my cup, right? And so what this does is you're anchoring your attention, right? Mindfulness, you're anchoring your attention to what's fully present here. Because notice everything that you named, right? What you saw, what you heard, what you felt is in the present moment. None of that is in the past. None of that is in the future. It's present and it's certain, right? I'm feeling this cup and I'm certain it is smooth. I'm certain it is cool, right? And so right now, what you're doing is you're activating the thinking part of your brain, which then dampens, remember it's a seesaw, dampens the emotional part of the brain. Because that's what happens when we're feeling anxious, is we're running in this emotional loop of what ifs, these projections, these thoughts. Sometimes it's negativity as well, right? So in order to counter that, anchor it back. Bring your mind back to what's fully present. And you can do that by naming 3 things you see, 3 things you hear, and 3 things you feel. One last one, and then we'll open things up for questions. Is I mentioned breathing was a powerful way of, through our breath, we have direct access to our nervous system, right? And I want to dive a little bit deeper than just breathing in your belly. I want to share our calm breathing method, right? And how this works is your breath, it's interesting because your in-breath is tied to the sympathetic. So that's the gas. Your out-breath is tied to the parasympathetic. That's the brakes, which is why as you breathe in and out, we have this ebb and flow. The way your nervous system is supposed to work as well, right? There's this ebb and flow in life, ebb and flow in your nervous system, ebb and flow in every part of your body, right? It's cycles. And that's how our mind body works, is through cycles, right? Anytime we disrupt that cycle, we create dysfunction. And so knowing that now, if you're feeling anxious in the moment, feeling stressed, feeling emotionally charged, one of the ways we can bring ourselves back down is by focusing on the out breath. Because when we focus on the out breath, we step on the brakes. And so this calm breathing method always begins with relaxing the body, right? Because it doesn't matter if you're feeling tense, if you're feeling hunched over, closed off, your body's always going to experience danger, right? So you want to relax the body, create postural ease, breathe deeply into your belly, right? Activate the full extent of your nervous system, your breathing here. And then on this third step is simply extend a longer exhale than normal, right? And some people like to count it, right? And I usually don't like recommending a number, right? There's a lot of breathing practices out there, like box breathing, right? Where there's a specific number. I don't tie a specific number to it because everyone's lung capacity is different. So sometimes, 4 seconds or 6 seconds might be a little for some people, and it might be too much for others, right? And if you're trying to force your breathing too much, you're going to create more anxiety, right? And so I usually don't recommend any specific number. Find the number that works for you, right? So maybe for you, it might be 3 seconds in and 6 seconds out. Maybe for you, it's 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. Right, so I invite everyone to try it out right now and find the number that feels right for them, right? For you, right? So relaxing your body, sitting upright, and we're breathing in and out through our nose, deeply into your belly, finding a good rhythm that feels comfortable, that feels safe. Remember, safety is key here. So whatever feels safe for you, and then see if you can extend the exhale and relax the exhale a little longer than you normally would. So if you want to double the inhale, you could. So maybe it's 3 seconds in, and then maybe it's 5, 6, 7 seconds out, whatever feels comfortable for you and your lung capacity. So it's not the number that matters. It's just extending the longer exhale and relaxing it. So it's not a forceful exhale. It's not a controlled exhale. It's just a nice, gentle, kind of like a sigh. It's kind of like, without making the sound. And you can choose, if you want, you can breathe out with your mouth as well. So breathing in with your nose, out with your mouth, if that feels comfortable for you as well. And again, whatever feels comfortable and feels safe, always. The key that I'm going to keep coming back to is your nervous system craves safety. Beautiful. So those are the 3 practices I wanted to leave with you, and I'd love to open things up for questions now. And what I want to let land here is anxiety is fear-based, right? And fear can have a voice. It's okay to let fear have a voice. You don't need it to give it a vote. Okay, your fear can have a voice. It can speak up. It can be like, I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. Right? What if this happens? What if that happens? And that's okay. You can let it have a voice. Let your nervous system have a voice. Let your brain have a voice, but you don't need to give it a vote. You get to make your own choices. Okay, in this moment, despite all the uncertainty, despite all the stress that's going on, what do I want to do? Do I want to create more safety for myself? Do I want to create more connection for myself? How can I do that? Well, here are a couple tools that Colin shared with me that I can use now. And I recommend you share this with your loved ones as well. Share this with your teams, share this with other people. And they're all very easy to explain. And I'll share these slides with you as well, as everyone has that. But yeah, I'd love to open this up for any questions that might come up. And if any of this makes sense, lands, doesn't land for you.
I'll quickly jump in, Colin, because I found that incredibly relaxing, to say the least, useful and applicable to my life. And I do want to say too that it's amazing to get a presentation from a seasoned facilitator like you. It just, everything flows so well, and that's incredibly well delivered. I want to thank everyone for being on the call while I'm talking right now before we go to questions. So Lillian, Rena, Shirley, thank you all for being here, and thanks a lot, Colin, for your talk.
Thank you, Ken. Really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor, and I'm very grateful to get to share all of this with all of you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you have any questions or even any thought or any input as well, anything you want to share, feel free to. I think you can unmute yourself, right? And and to share. Mm-hmm.
We got a bunch of smiling faces.
Yeah. I think one of the most useful things you said was the fact of building awareness as giving choice in that, and giving yourself, an option of how you're going to respond, and that just very, very useful. I mean, you presented this in a very succinct but very practical and applicable way. And, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. Yes. Yeah. It's the quote that comes up for me is by Carl Jung. And he says, it's about until you bring the conscious into the unconscious, right? The unconscious is always going to dictate all of your behavior in your life, right? And you're going to call that fate.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear
you.
Okay.
I do gather anxiety as my day goes along. And sometimes it is a bit overwhelming. I have another issue in that I lost my spouse not long ago. So it's kind of multiple things, but I'm wondering about the breathing. I do a lot of breathing. That's something I've incorporated in my life. Usually I'm so fatigued I lie down, but I'm wondering if I should try to do this practice sitting up. Does it matter?
Yes and no. So it does have an impact. Does it matter? No. Will it change your experience whether you're sitting or lying down? Yes. Right. So I encourage you to try both and see again. It's instead of assuming, and I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but I recommend trying both and seeing which one your nervous system responds to better in terms of what outcome you want. Right. And so the difference I can say is that, remember, as I mentioned, body posture is everything. Body posture changes changes your experience. So when you're lying down, it'll have a different experience than when you're sitting upright.
Yeah.
And so try both sitting upright, practicing the breathing, seeing if, how that feels for you, and then lying down, doing the breathing. Right. You can also try breathing in and out through your nose. You can also try breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. Right. There are many different breathing techniques, and each one will create a bit of a different experience for you. Right? But always remember, the key is safety. Whatever feels safe. for your nervous system. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Colin, I'm not sure if you're able to unmute. Oh, there she is. She's
yeah, I think she's. Yeah. Go ahead, Rena.
Yeah, no, I was actually just interested in this concept, the concept that you were talking about, getting those 3 layers. I forgot what they are right now, but where the top one is safety. So my question is, do you think that, and this is like a personal, I'm asking for your personal opinion on this. Do you think that you can create a sense of safety when your basic needs are not in society are not actually being met? Like, can you actually use your mind to do that? Or do you actually have to have a basic level of sustaining yourself before you can ever achieve that sense of safety?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My personal opinion, yes, you can. I do believe, and it's actually less about using your mind. It's using the emotional and the somatic body.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah.
The wrong word.
Yeah, because your mind is the one that's telling you that's not safe. Your mind is the one that's telling you, oh, I need to have all my needs met. I need to have all the necessities. I need to have a certain amount of money in the bank account. I need to have food in my fridge. I need to have, a roof over my head for me to feel safe. That's what the mind is telling you. And when the mind tells you that, the nervous system believes it. Right. So can you feel safe despite not having all of that? Absolutely. Right. But you just need to somatically show your body that it is safe. Right. Because if we look back during our ancestors' times, there were many that did not have all the necessities that what we call necessities nowadays. And yet they are able to have thriving lives as well. Why is that? It's because their mind didn't create the story that I need this to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's why I said, like, all these practices comes back to, you need to feel safe. Safety is a feeling. Safety is not a thinking. You can't trick yourself into believing you're safe. Right. You have to feel it. You actually have to, and that's why I say it's not about feeling better. You need to get better at feeling. Get really good at, like, oh, okay, despite everything that's going on right now, it sucks. Yes, this sucks. This global pandemic sucks. It absolutely sucks. And I can feel safe right now because I am. Right now in this moment, I am safe. Right? There's nothing attacking me. I am safe. Right? And that's the thing is, I say there's 2 types of fears. There's real fears and there's imagined fears. The body, the brain, and the nervous system can't tell the difference between the 2. It treats it both. It says paper tigers, like your deadlines and your projects, it treats it exactly the same. Paper tiger, real tiger, same thing. Something is chasing me, right? Or if your partners are being irrational, treats it the same. Tiger, irrational partner, same thing.
That's super interesting, Colin. I'm going to say thanks one more time. Thank the guests. Just stop the recording over here, but I think we can let it run on a little longer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.